Hey guys, what's up? Plastic Guy here, coming back with another figure review where today we're going to be taking a look at this Marvel Select upgraded suit Spider-Man figure, which I believe is from Far From Home. However, this suit was featured heavily in No Way Home as well, so I guess it could be from either or, but officially it's Far From Home. And I picked up this figure for £9 on eBay and I put him out on display. I wasn't planning on making a video on him, but the more that I saw this guy just sitting out on display, I was like, we need to take a closer look at him because he is awesome. I'm really liking him. Recently on the channel, we took a look at all my Raimi figures, all my Andrew Garfield figures, and then all my Tom Holland figures, and of course I didn't have this guy at the time. Now that I've got him, I feel like it would be a shame if we didn't take a closer look, so here we are. And yeah, I mean, with Marvel Select, it's kind of the usual. Bigger scale, so my main collection is Marvel Legends, and I will compare this guy next to a Marvel Legends later on, and we can see the difference in size. This guy's a lot bigger, and I just feel like the posability isn't as good on this figure as well, once again, along with most other Marvel Select figures when you do compare them to other figure lines. But what Marvel Select do really well is just get that sculpt spot on. It is fantastic and it's evident here in this figure. Taking a closer look at the head sculpt, I feel like they've nailed it. I love the black webbing all over the suit, and there's definitely nothing to fault here in the head. I mean, okay, I've said that, and then the line's gonna disappear at the back here. And there also was a bit of a smudge here. This isn't new out of box. I don't know if this was the condition of it straight out of the box. I'm guessing it probably was, but there is just a couple dots here and there. For the most part, it looks really good. I think this retailed at around probably £25. As I mentioned, I picked this up for around £9. Sadly, it didn't come with any alternative hands. It didn't come with the base. I think there's a version with an alternate head. I'm not sure. I do have the alternate head that we'll look at later on. But yeah, I do like the eyes, the lenses and everything. For the £25 price mark, yeah, it's a good figure. I think that's what I was trying to say before I started talking about head sculpts and things. The body, yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, the black webbing throughout this figure is so crisp, it's so nice. And I don't know what that is here, some dirty mark or that, I don't know if that will come off. But it's worth mentioning at this point, my biggest gripe with the Marvel Legends Spider-Man upgraded suit was that they never filled in the webbing. They released that figure a couple times and they never had the black webbing on it, which led me to go and customize it myself. This figure has absolutely nailed the webbing. I think it looks great. We get those double lines as we saw in the film all over, and it just looks really nice. And then my favourite part of this suit, which I never really noticed at first, is just all the texturing in the black areas. It looks splendid. To use a different word, yeah, I just think it looks great. And it runs throughout all the black, especially in the legs. I don't know if it's coming across in camera as well as it does in person. You can kind of see it around the crotch area, unfortunately. But yeah, the legs, this area here, it's just this really nice sculpted texturing going on that just makes this figure pop. I hope it does pick up on camera as well as in person because it is really nice. And we just get to the feet where we have the same black webbing going on. But yeah, paint is pretty spot on. I really like the sculpted detail here, the texturing, I like the colours they've used. The spider logo looks good here on the front. It's missing a wee bit of black that I might touch up. Logo looks great on the back. And then overall, he does look the part. So I'm just going to compare this guy to some other figures before we get that Peter head sculpt on, because there's a couple of things I want to touch on. So here we have our upgraded suit Spider-Man next to the Marvel Select Homecoming Spider-Man. So both of these figures are from Marvel Select, and at first I thought this was just going to be a repainted version of this guy right here. And I was so happy to see that I was wrong. There are actually lots of differences in the sculpt, and there is no doubt that this Spider-Man is a lot better. Just looking at them from this angle here, he's just a lot better proportioned. I feel like the arms are really long on this Homecoming Spidey, and when it gets to all the articulation in the body here, it just seems a bit outdated, and both these problems have definitely been fixed with this newer figure. It definitely looks like they've reused a lot of parts in this. I'm sure the hands were probably the same, the head sculpts look the same, probably the things like the lower legs are the same. But I do much prefer the red on this. This looks very dull, comparing them next to each other. And if we do take a closer look, we can see where the articulation is different. We still get this chest articulation, but the arms, the upper arms definitely look a lot better, and the way they just kind of naturally are down by his side look a lot better on this figure here. And then when it gets to the waist, I think that's the most evident when it comes to improvements. This is just a bit weird and clunky and everything, a bit old-fashioned, whereas this just looks a lot better. Yeah, definitely happier with this Marvel Select Spidey over this one, and I still like this, especially to get the Homecoming suit, get that look, whereas, you know, a lot of the Homecoming Spidey figures are pretty pricey on the aftermarket. If you can get this for a good price, I recommend it, but this is certainly the better Marvel Select Spidey. And so then here we have our Marvel Select upgraded suit Spider-Man next to the Hasbro Marvel Legends upgraded suit Spider-Man. And yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the size difference in these two lines are immense. We can see how much smaller Marvel Legends are compared to Marvel Select, which really is a shame because Marvel Select makes some great figures that I'd love to integrate into my main collection, but it just never really works. I will run over the articulation later on in this video, but the posability factor of Marvel Legends is so much better than Marvel Select. But I don't think we can deny that overall the Marvel Select does just look better. I mean, you're not going to be able to get them in as good poses, but when we look at both these figures side by side, the Marvel Select looks at a much higher quality in my opinion. Let me know if you agree down in the comment section below. So luckily I had this Marvel Select Tom Holland head sculpt from a Spider-Man Homecoming Marvel Select figure, and because I had the Homecoming Spider-Man out on display, this one here, I thought I'd take the Tom Holland head and put it on this Far From Home upgraded suit and then put this one out on display. And it did come with a problem because this one doesn't have a peg at the bottom. This one doesn't have a peg coming out. The head sculpt that originally came with this one has the peg in the head, and then the Homecoming Marvel Select has the peg in the neck joint. So yeah, you basically just have to balance it on, but it still looks really good. It looks the part, and I don't really have any complaints. Obviously, if I was to pose them around and play about with them, the head sculpt's just gonna stay on apparently. Yeah, I mean, it does fit on there nicely, I suppose, but it's not properly secured on there is my point. I'm really happy with how this looks though. The Tom Holland head sculpt isn't great. I mean, it could be a lot better. I think the biggest downfall is the eyebrow seems to be the paint is sitting on top of the sculpted eyebrow, and when I was taking pictures of this guy, it looked very odd. The likeness to Tom Holland is there. I do just wish it was a wee bit better, but Marvel Select have never really nailed head sculpts. You do get a lot of really good ones, but you do get a lot of bad ones as well, and I feel like this one's definitely in the middle, verging towards good. So yeah, I'm happy with how this looks, and this is how I'm displaying this figure. I stupidly swapped the heads over before I was going to do the articulation, and it is actually a nightmare trying to get that original head sculpt back on, so please don't blame me, but I'm just going to keep this head sculpt on while I do the articulation. Obviously I'm not going to count this as articulation, but the rest of the body, you can get the arm moving about that far up, which isn't too far, about that far in at the body, upper bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, you can get the wrist moving backwards and forwards, rotate that round, and as I mentioned before, this figure probably did originally come with alternative hands to swap them over. Same articulation here, no butterfly joint or anything. You can get a fair range of movement in the chest here, move that up and down, and yeah, it won't really move left and right. Then we get more articulation down in the waist area, and moving that all together, you do get a better range of movement. And this doesn't really move left and right either, it does move a wee bit. But yeah, actually a good range when you move it all around there. You can get the leg kicking about that far forward, about that far back, that far out. He's got an upper thigh cut, double jointed knees there. You can move the foot backwards and forwards and it will pivot. Yeah, nothing on the calf area. So the articulation is decent, and actually it is better than other Marvel Select figures that I've got in the collection, but it still just isn't up to the level of Marvel Legends when it comes to posability. And so there we have it for this Marvel Select upgraded suit Spider-Man Far From Home figure, or No Way Home, whatever you want to call it. But this was definitely an official Far From Home release, and I am more than happy with this figure. Picking it up for £9, I feel like is an absolute steal. The sculpt is there, the paint is great, articulation's pretty decent. I think if you're wanting this guy in like a web swinging pose, you're definitely going to want to pick up the likes of Marvel Legends. But getting this guy in more generic poses such as this here, he looks great. I do wish that I picked this figure up at retail and got the base and the alternative hands, and I don't think there was an alternative head. If there was, that would be even better. I do have previous stands and this Tom Holland head sculpt from previous Marvel Select Spider-Man releases, so it has worked out, especially picking this figure up for cheaper. And if you can get this guy for cheap, I highly recommend it. Marvel Select definitely don't sell for as crazy prices as Marvel Legends on the aftermarket. I don't really know why, but I do see a lot of Marvel Select figures selling for pretty cheap up on eBay, and they are great figures overall, and I feel like this is a great example of a good Marvel Select figure. So yeah, keep your eyes open. Let me know what you guys think of this figure down in the comment section below. While you're down there guys, if you could do me a massive favour, as always, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Feel free to hop on over to the channel page, because there are plenty of Spider-Man videos up on there, and I'll leave the link to my Instagram in the description below, where I'll definitely have some pictures of this guy up on there, so feel free to check that out. With all that being said guys, thank you so much for watching this video right here, and as always, I'll catch yous on the flip-flop later. Cheers.